Director Simpson? Director Taylor has asked to be excused. Chair Garcia?
Present.
We have 3 committee members present. We also have President Peterson joining the committee.
Welcome. All right, the chair will now ask the secretary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The chair invites any member of the audience who wish to participate to do so, and asks that those who do not wish to participate, please remain silent during the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being conducted in person from the Central Service Building. In order to allow as much public access and participation as possible, this meeting is also being broadcast via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la Junta Escolar de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor llame al 312-626-6799. Nuevamente, 312-626-6799. E introduzca el número de reunión 608-130-5362. Nuevamente, el número de reunión es 608-130-5362. Gracias.
For each of our items of business, we will hold a discussion and public hearing. Those who wish to speak on tonight's items are required to register to speak in advance at the start of the meeting. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. I ask that those who are waiting to speak virtually to remain on the platform until you are called upon to speak. After a speaker's time is up, they may continue to follow the meeting at one of the broadcast options mentioned previously. For the sake of fairness and to give everyone a chance to speak, the chair reserves the right to limit the length of time allowed to any one speaker. Written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the board. Send this testimony to the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201, or fax 414-475-8071, or email to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Just a reminder, Robert Rules of Order dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair of the committee. Also, any questions or requests, including those from the public, committee members, or the administration, are to be directed towards the chair, who will then determine the most efficient way to address them. Please be respectful to the democratic process adhered to by the board. For the safety of all and to ensure a good order of a meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone persisting in disrupting this process will be asked to leave or will be escorted from the meeting and not allowed to return. Anyone ejected from the meeting may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. Also, no one other than board members, designated staff, and those who have been invited to present or participate in the items of business will be allowed on the stage during or after the meeting of the board and its committees. Also, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting the meetings, agendas, and minutes page on MPS website and choosing online agendas. Now let's begin. Madam Secretary, item 1, please.
Item number 1 is an update on district multi-tiered system of supports and interventions. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Would the administration please present this item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, this evening we bring to you an update on the district's multi-tiered system of support and interventions. This report will focus on district's proactive strategies used to support students and the school teams that work with those interventions to assist students. To present this item, I have with me Mr. John Jagman, District Discipline Manager. Following the presentation, we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have in regards to this item. Mr. Jagman.
Thank you, Dr. Posley. Chair Garcia, members of the committee, John Jagman, District Discipline Manager. As always, we start by centering ourselves in the 5 priorities for success. Specifically today, we're going to look at how we are improving district and school culture as an emphasis to increase academic achievement and accountability. First, looking at proactive supports and interventions, we have provided the Culture, Climate, and Alternatives to Suspension Toolkit. Each month, we are focusing on a best practice. In January, we focused on bullying awareness, drawing attention to proper documentation, how to support students, and some resources available for staff and families around bullying awareness. We have our school-based PBIS Tier 1 team and building and intervention teams that meet monthly and document their minutes within the school improvement plan. We have regular sessions of courageous conversations about race exploration. That is our one-day introductory seminar that all MPS staff members are attending. We hold 2 cohorts every month. And we also started a cohort of additional courageous conversations about race practitioners. So we continue to add on to those individuals that are gaining a little bit of a deeper knowledge base within the courageous conversations about race framework. Then, on this graphic, we look at our Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions within the PBIS multi-tiered system of support. You can see in total, we've had a little over 3,500 total Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions, with check and check out being the primary first intervention, and we've had just under 1,700 interventions of check and check out across the district year to date. Then if we look at alternatives to suspension, these are for school leaders after they receive a behavior referral and they are working with the student, and within the code of conduct, they are providing disciplinary practice outside of a suspension. We look at those alternatives to suspension just for the month of January. You can see that we have various numbers of conference, counsel, detention, mediation, referral to BIT, support staff, repairing harm circle, and the restorative conversation, which is specifically within that restorative practices framework. Also, as mentioned earlier, our monthly focus with school leaders was around proper documentation, investigation, and supporting of bullying across the district. Then, as we look at student, staff, and community collaboration, we did a mid-year analysis of the student discipline committees. Every month, the 30 traditional middle and high schools submit their student discipline committee minutes, and those are monitored on a monthly basis and shared with district and school leaders. However, in January, we did a much deeper analysis of it, looking at trends, looking at topics. Some of the common themes discussed were ways for the schools to increase activities to engage the students, looking at various academic check-ins for students, looking at consistent policy implementation, ensuring students understand mental health and the process to get access to mental health supports within the school. And then students talked about what they look like in terms of classroom climate and classroom management. We also held our quarterly community conversation. The focus in January was around attendance strategies across the district and introducing the community to the Culture, Climate, and Alternatives to Suspension Toolkit. At the community conversation, we had Zoom breakout rooms in which the community members got to have a conversation with various district staff members on what they like to see in the toolkit and maybe some other opportunities for us to expand the supports in the toolkit. Our next steps going forward, again, we're going to have a monthly focus from the toolkit. In February, we are focusing on bias and looking at our classroom management through an anti-racist lens and how we can ensure that we are interrupting that process of bias as we are working with our students and families throughout the school. Continuing that courageous conversations about race exploration seminars. We have one this week, as a matter of fact. And then this month, we are rolling out and trying a 28-day racial equity challenge for staff members and the discipline champions. They get a daily Remind app notification with a article or a video and then a reflection for them to kind of reflect on how racial equity and bias plays a role in our school policies, practices, and classroom management. I'm now going to turn it over to Lisa Salva to talk about some PBIS multi-tiered system of support.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Lisa Salva, PBIS Supervisor. I'm here to talk a little bit about PBIS and how we serve our schools and our students. PBIS vision, the vision of PBIS in Milwaukee Public Schools is for students to feel validated, affirmed, and empowered to succeed. Our mission statement, the mission of PBIS in MPS, is to use a proactive, data-informed, systemic approach to school-wide behavior within an equitable, multi-tiered system of supports framework. PBIS is an evidence-based tiered framework for supporting students' behavioral, academic, social, emotional, and mental health. When implemented with fidelity, we know it improves social emotional competence, academic success, and school climate. This is the framework we use in MPS, which is the continuum of evidence-based practices. If you look at the blue section, the Tier 1, those are our universal supports for all students. And those universal supports include building meaningful relationships and community. We want all of our classrooms to have those relationships and community, teacher to student and student to student. Co-creating expectations, procedures, and agreements. Are we co-creating those expectations with our students so they can take ownership of them? Collectively teaching and practicing our expectations, procedures, and agreements. What does that look like at the school level? Are we teaching them in the classroom? Are we practicing them so students can be successful? Developing system for holding self and others accountable. What is our accountability system in our classrooms and in our schools? And acknowledging all students and recognizing their worth. So how are we acknowledging our students, and what are those acknowledgement systems in the school? We recently, 2 years ago, collaborated with other departments to ensure that our Tier 1 universal supports have inclusive language and restorative language. We created an integrating universal supports document that integrates PBIS with other approaches in the district, such as mindfulness, social emotional learning, trauma-informed care, culturally responsive practices, and restorative practices. 80% of our students should respond to those Tier 1 universal supports. And for our students who need a little more, we move to Tier 2, which is about 10 to 15% of our students receive Tier 2 services, which are check-in, check-out, social, academic, instructional groups, we call them SAG groups, behavior assessment intervention plans, or BAPES. And then at the Tier 3 level, which is about 5% or less of our students receive Tier 3 supports, Renew, which is in high school, educational wraparound in our elementary schools, and FBA BIPs, which are functional behavior assessments and behavior intervention plans. And as for the support we provide to schools, most of our support is in the form of coaching. Our coaches coach PBIS Tier 1 teams monthly. They have monthly meetings that focus on data, classroom and school systems, building intervention teams, school-wide strategies, systems, expectations, and procedures, coaching on classroom Tier 1 universal supports, and also coaching on best practices that support engagement and align to ambitious instruction. We provide support around school improvement, the continuous improvement process, including the continuous improvement plan, which is the culture and climate section with culture and climate strategies. The PBIS and building intervention teams have monthly minutes that follow a continuous improvement process. And yearly, all schools take the tiered fidelity inventory, which is our evaluation tool for the fidelity of all 3 tiers, and this is a national survey. This is also used to identify schools for recognition from the RTI Center. We provide professional development, school-wide and district-wide professional development. Our sessions are available through LMS. We have had 29 sessions this year so far. Some of them include classroom strategies to increase engagement, moving beyond expectations, and action planning around some of our school data. And as far as data, the coaches use a monthly snapshot to determine school needs. That monthly snapshot includes, for each school, classroom behavior data, teacher response strategies, office discipline referrals, attendance and suspension data, and they use that data to determine the support schools need the next month. We also review behavior interventions. John was speaking of earlier. All of our behavior interventions, we provide professional development and support at the school level, along with looking at that progress monitoring data and ensuring that our students with the top classroom behaviors are receiving the support they need as far as interventions. And now I will introduce Ms. Tank from Lancaster.
Hello, Chair Garcia, members of the committee. Valencia Tank, principal of Lancaster Elementary School. Lancaster Elementary School serves 332 students at this time. We are kindergarten through 8th grade. Lancaster Community School is a school where all participants are engaged in moving students forward to high school and beyond. All staff will analyze data frequently to adjust instruction to meet all students' needs. Lancaster will engage, inspire, and challenge our school community to prepare students to be innovative and innovative citizens in a complex, interconnected, and changing world. So that's just a little bit about our school. As far as just piggybacking on what we're doing over to reduce suspensions and alternative to suspensions at Lancaster, we really focus on positive relationships. It's the anchor to everything that we do there. Our motto is the night way is the right way because we are the Lancaster Knights. One of the things that we start our day with each day is we greet all scholars at the door. On the buses, if they're walkers, we greet them at the door. That's all staff, whether they're teachers, support staff, assistant principals, everyone is somewhere greeting a student. We want to make sure that students feel safe. Trust is a big part of everything that we do. We want to meet the parents. We want to know who is involved. If grandparents are dropping off kids, brothers, sisters, we want to make sure that it is their home just as well as the students and scholars who attend Lancaster. We have morning meetings each morning. It's very intentional. It gives scholars an opportunity to start their day with just a little moment of decompression. No one wants to just kind of start their day with just going. For adults, it's just a cup of coffee, but students have a lot to process in the morning, and we want to give them an opportunity to decompress. Mending relationships after the trust has been broken, after poor behavior has been displayed is just something that we have to do every day. Kids have to have consequences, but they have to learn how to process. We're teaching them to be responsible young adults, but we also want to let them know that each day is a new day. We want to start fresh. We are teaching them that we don't hold grudges. And sometimes we have to learn that we don't want to shame kids. We want to know that they have made a mistake, but they don't have to live with it forever. And sometimes they do have consequences, but what are you going to do so that you don't have that same poor choice the next time? So mending relationships are very important, a very important thing that we do at Lancaster. We talked about behavior check-in, check-out. We do it both for attendance and behavior. And you can kind of graduate out of check-in and check-out if you're successful. However, kids can remain on check-in, check-out at Lancaster even if they've graduated out. We found that sometimes it's just a routine. It's something that they enjoy doing. They've built that relationship. So even if it's something that it's not mandatory for them to be on anymore, they're welcome to continue to be on check-in, check-out if it's something that's helping them with their relationships. And they have an opportunity to check in and check out with multiple teachers. Positive reinforcement to change behavior. We've learned that visibility, we have Scholar of the Week, and we take their pictures and we post them. And we've found that doing it weekly versus monthly is important because it gives more opportunities for kids who may have more opportunity to do it. You may have it's really hard to have a good month, but it's really easy to have a good week. So we've changed that student of the month to a student of the week. It gives more opportunity for students to really try their best and be acknowledged and be showcased. There's a lot of positive in every single day, and so it gives a lot of kids the opportunity to work towards that positive. We have monthly assemblies where we're not only showcasing their academics, but we're showcasing their citizenship. We give Nightway tokens where we catch you in the act. So you may be walking down the hallway and you open a door. We give you a Nightway token because you may have opened the door for your teacher, or someone may have dropped something. We caught you in the act and you picked it up. So there are all kinds of things that build a community of positivity that we want to acknowledge kids for. And we found that these things have just changed the kinds of behavior. We want kids to be in school all the time, and we want them to like school. I hear often that they don't have to like me, they have to respect me, but they'll respect you more if they like you. So we want them to build these relationships with their teachers and their administrators all the time. Positive phone calls home and positive attendance phone calls to parents. The positive phone calls of attendance have been something new we've done at Lancaster for parents. It's probably been the most impactful thing that we've changed as far as the culture with our parents. They haven't expected it's something new. They've never done it. And some of the responses that we're getting are kind of mind-blowing. We've gotten responses from parents saying, you think I'm a good parent? You're congratulating for me doing something that I'm supposed to do. But again, it's forming that relationship with the parent. So when you do have to call, maybe for a poor choice that their student has made, you've already had those 3 and 4 connections of positive phone calls, and you have that parent on your team. So when we say that the relationships are the anchor of everything that we do at Lancaster, it really does make the difference, and we've become a community. Being part of everything that we do Wednesday folders home to parents. It's their home too. Kindergarten is the first time you've ever allowed your children to be away from home from you for the first time all day for 8 hours. It takes a lot of trust for you to allow your kids to be away from you for that long, for that time of the day. So we want parents to feel like it's their home too. So there's positive communication that goes home with them every week. If something happens at the school, we make sure that we alert parents through auto dialer, through the Wednesday folders, through emails, through it's called Messenger right now. So they'll get the Messenger alerts through their phones, through text messages. But we want it to feel like it's their home too. Visual attendance throughout the school building. We're trying our best every week to get that over 90% attendance. We want to get in green, and every day they're on the announcements. We have those signage throughout the building, but the signage is on the door for the parents as well. So when they pick up their kids and they drop them off, they see it too. So they know if we haven't made it in green, hey, it's signage for you to see that sign that we haven't made it that week or that day as well. So it's an opportunity for them to try to get their kids to school on time each and every day as well. And lastly, celebration and contests. One of the things that we found out is that adults love to be acknowledged as well. So when we have the monthly celebrations, we've added celebrations and awards for not only the staff, but there is at least one prize for a parent as well for the month. So those are the things that we have done for Lancaster, and it has totally changed the climate of our school, and that's how we've been able to reduce the suspensions. We've been able to reduce our referrals, and it has become a safer place. Thank you.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, thank you for your time. That concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Jackman and Ms. Salva, for the report on that. Principal Tank, the love, affirmation, and sense of family and community that you're building for your students is felt, so thank you.
Thank you, Chair Garcia.
And do committee members wish to make comments or ask any questions? Director O'Halloran.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. I just want to make a comment in general that we've received a number of emails requesting updates on resolutions that are not before the PACE committee, and, you know, asking about the reporting associated with those. I don't think, because they're not on the agenda for tonight, that we can speak directly to them, but I just wanted to acknowledge that we've received them and that we will provide updates about the reporting after we've consulted, because some of them just straight up are reported in other committees. So I don't want to get into specifics about which resolutions we're speaking about, but I just wanted to acknowledge that we did receive those, and we can provide an update about the reporting schedule as they're scheduled for the review before the specific committees. I did have a question then. So we initially, the items that were noticed for tonight did not include the regular format, and I just wanted to ask that if we do alter the formatting of the reports, that it comes back through the committee, just so that the public is aware of why the reports are being changed, or the way that the data is being presented. I don't know if administration or anyone else can speak to a little bit as to why we initially did not have the same formatting that we normally do.
Administration?
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, the reasoning for the way we're looking at this, we're looking at the positive, proactive things that we are doing and looking at the multi-tiered approach of what we're doing in classrooms on a daily basis. Every indication of the document is a part of the document that was provided to the board. Any data points that we've had for the month is provided for, and we will continue to provide that information. But what we are trying to do is to try to focus in on what is happening inside of classrooms. What are we doing to resolve the issues around suspension and building school culture? So that's the purpose of taking a look at that and spending time on proactive measures of moving forward.
Comments?
Not at this time.
All right, thank you. And for the listening audience, do want to emphasize the fact that a third attachment was updated, which makes the content of what is usually included in the report available for the public. So that is out there, because I know that there was some questions around, like, are we hiding something? No, like, it's public, it's out there. And I hope that, you know, through this conversation here today, we can get to better understanding as to, you know, when things change, the rationale behind that, and most importantly, delineate a process that is inclusive of us and the community that expects these types of, you know, reporting. Do any committee members have any other? Director Leonard.
So I took a very different approach to this. I just, the tone of what I call a summary just really threw me off, to be honest with you. I'm a little bit upset, to say the least. We have spent, or at least I've spent, over a year working with various different groups, talking to different people in our buildings, parents, et cetera, not just in disproportionality, but in building culture all the way around. And this report, when I saw the response from all the letters coming in, emails, calls today, really what I feel that the end result was that we have lost a lot of trust that we have built up over the past year. I can't believe how quickly that this type of summary eroded that confidence. And I think that that's a critical error in the way we approach this. That just has to be said as it is. Yes, there is evidence of growing success. There's no question about it. Ms. Tank, excellent job. I see it happening more and more in our district, but I want to use Angela Harris's statement. I actually like what she said. It sort of hit home with me. The real work that happens is after we collect the data that hasn't happened yet, we need to refocus our approach. We've got a ways to go. We have to take this seriously. If we really want to shift where we're going, I believe we have to sort of look beyond the boardroom, beyond reporting of metrics and having testimonials, and bringing in all the stakeholders to develop a viable, comprehensive plan that includes, and I have to bring this up because disproportionality is not the only issue we're talking about. We're talking about building safety. So that plan would have to include a more effective way with helping that 5% of students that cause the most severe disruptions and jeopardize building safety, while at the same time building positive cultures that are restorative and empowering. We need to focus on both. And I feel like we're not getting to the gist of it. I still don't even have it all articulated yet. But I believe that the next step, if it were up to me, the next step would be to have all the stakeholders, not just a small group, but all the stakeholders basically coming together, including parents, et cetera, and starting giving each other input and having dialogue to come up with some solutions. I think that a lot of things that we're doing are very good. They're very positive. I think we should keep doing those things. But I feel like we really have to speed up the process and get much more serious about it. Thank you.
Administration?
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, what you see before you tonight is exactly what the resolution asks for. This is no different than what we have done every month that we come out and bring this information. The same data points are there. We bring a principal every month. We bring a department here at the central office every month. We spotlight the things that we are doing on an ongoing basis, whether it's community conversations. We let you know the topics, when it's going to be shared, what we're going to do, and everything that we are doing is from a proactive standpoint. And as far as the data, we can lay the data out there every night. There's nothing to hide about the data. We can lay the data out there and we can talk about it and do those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, we want to spend time on proactive measures that we know that work. And every single month, we have brought it to you, something that worked. And we have also showed a decrease in suspensions monthly when we come here. We have showed a decrease in increase in conferences, and trying to come up with alternatives to suspensions. All those things are there. And so I'm open to the idea of having the community in to talk about whatever we need to talk about. But the bottom line, at the end of the day, we still will be walking through this same process, and you still will have some outliers that will not coincide of what we want. We are not perfect by no means, but every letter of the resolution is met and is in the document that I've provided for you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Director Peterson?
Yes, I wanted to ask Principal Tank if you could give a few more details about your, the transformation of your school. And I think what you laid out is real important. It's positive relationships and the multiple ways that those have to be initially made and then sustained with both parents and teachers and students. But you did mention that things had gotten a lot better. I was just curious how long between the time when things weren't so good and your intervention and the staff's intervention, you know, what kind of time frame was that? And I'll say, was there any hesitation by staff members? And if so, how did you win them over?
Principal Tank?
Chair Garcia, members of the committee. I have now, this is my 5th year at Lancaster. I would say that my first 2 years before we went into COVID, the suspensions were very high and students were out of school a lot. We would give suspensions, students would be out of school, and when they would return, the behavior wouldn't change. The practice of the poor choices would remain the same. We have instilled a lot of parent conferences, a lot more positive reinforcement, and like I said, a lot more positive phone calls, a lot of parents coming into the building more for all kinds of things, celebrations, including them, like I said, informing them, making them feel like as if their opinion matters, that they're a part of the school. Detention, community service, they have to be in that building. They have to own up to the consequences, and then really making it, them basically say, I'm sorry for the poor choice that I made. Suspension really hasn't changed any of the behaviors that the students were making. But when we have told kids, you made a poor choice, but we forgive you for what you've done, and if you can communicate to us why you did what you did, and the adults say, basically, this is what you're going to do to repair the harm, and we're going to still work with you. We're still going to work with your parent, and your parent is going to come into the building and acknowledge that. We have found that it has changed the behavior versus keeping them at home. The suspensions, when they really didn't do anything for us at Lancaster. So I'm going to say it's taken us about 3 years to kind of figure that information out, but we weren't successful with traditional suspension.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have 2 individuals on our virtual platform and 1 individual in the audience that would like to speak tonight. Also, for our listening audience, Director Simpson has joined the committee. Would you like to go to the virtual testimony?
Yes.
So noted. Okay, we do have our very own Vice President Taylor, who has joined the committee and registered to speak tonight. Director Taylor, please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony.
The caller, Taylor. I am sorry I cannot be in there. I have to take it easy for today. I just wanted to say, because I had received several of the emails as well too, and that I want people to understand that we are listening, and that we want to make sure that we are being transparent as possible. As the previous chair of committee, one of the things that I wanted to advocate for is to make sure that we gave updates on this information as well too. So I did see the emails. I received them. I replied to as many as I could, seeing as if I supposed to kind of be on bed rest. I also did ask for updates or those certain resolutions that were asked for. And as well, I wanted to ensure that the information that was presented last month, like that information was attached on the document that I did ask for board governance for number one. And I do thank administration for jumping on that immediately and making sure that we did have that data in transparency. Also, for the individuals and organizations who continue to advocate and come to us, I would like to know, just to make sure that we are aligning and absolutely hearing what you are saying, what will be the end goal for the information that we continuously ask to advocate for? And what do we see as in being successful with NPS for this information that we receive? And I know this will not be something that can happen overnight, but I also think we often talk about, the negative and the things that's going on, and we should be held accountable. We was elected to do just that. But I also want us to think about what would be that tentative solution and how do we get there and what are the steps, right? And I think Director Leonard did talk about us all working together, community, staff, administration as well too. And then I do believe the rest of the information I was going to say, Director O'Halloran already stated it, so I won't repeat it. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice President Taylor. Our next speaker on the virtual platform is Angela Lucas Foley. Please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony.
Angela Lucas Foley, Lucasfoley. Good evening, Superintendent. Good evening, Superintendent Posley, Chair Garcia, and directors. As I have done before, I come to you this evening as a white educator and a proud member of RWE, Aspiring Anti-Racist White Educators of Milwaukee. I am once again focusing tonight's testimony on follow-through from our board of directors. This body, current and former, has worked hard to support the transformation of Milwaukee Public Schools. But what evidence do we have that this work is being successful? A comprehensive plan with benchmarks and continual monitoring, much like the multi-tiered system of support presented tonight, needs to be developed and backed by the school board to transform this educational system into what I know it can be. Particularly, what district-wide trainings are being provided with the multi-tiered system of support in mind? What about the schools with all of the things? What are they doing? What do they have? What about the schools without all of the things? What are they doing? What do they have? Where is the district plan, often referenced in many of the resolutions? What elements are pulling schools up and transforming them into better? How can those be noticed and documented and repeated? As often said, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. The ask here tonight is that we look at how we can pull things together from the community as well as the school board to make sure that we are really doing the work of transforming our schools and our district to places where all students can be their best and all staff can be their best. And that we are really looking to and supporting the Black and Brown students and families of this community. Thank you.
The next speaker here with us is Angela Harris. Please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony.
Abolitionist outlier educator, HARRIS. Chair Garcia, members of the committee, first, I would like to thank Jane Audette for reminding us that constant vigilance is required in the fight for equitable and just classrooms. Next, I would like to thank the board members that responded to my email. The question I need you all to ask yourselves and then administration is, are our proactive supports and interventions helping or hiding our disparate discipline practices? The revamping of the monthly report on discipline disproportionality data is nothing more than a shell game by administration, an attempt to swindle the Black students, families, and constituents of this district into a fantasy that discipline disproportionality no longer exists, hoping that if you move the P just a few more times around long enough, we will forget that the academic and life outcomes of Black students intersect with exclusionary discipline practices. But public praise, private problems, right? just another skeleton in the closet. Changing the name of this report does not and will not change exclusionary discipline practices Black children face in this district. Today we decide if we are to be complicit in their failure or we are to be partners in their ability to thrive. Instead of putting a positive spin on discipline data, let's create a plan to actually address it. A plan that gets to the root causes of the disproportionality. Administration is clear in its description of our tiered supports as proactive supports and interventions, while its practices and most importantly, the purposes remain murky for most educators in our district. Our tiered supports could be used as a practice to promote equity and reduce discipline disparities, but that requires intentionality, accountability, and a clear plan that addresses the disparities. We do that by examining our policies and practices, our procedures, our school cultures, and even if it's just the action of a few staff members of that school. We use that data to examine possible solutions that then will inform our positive support interventions. That's the roadmap to dismantling disproportionality. It's time administration moves past denial and resistance of possible solutions to full acceptance of our exclusionary discipline practices. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that completes public testimony on this item.
Is there any further discussion? Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. I had a motion prepared, but I'm not sure that it's sufficient for the current situation, so I'm just going to table it and think about it and come back with it maybe next time. But in the meantime, I just wanted to make sure I had asked for plans that we could consider as a board through the amendment process or through the budget process to kind of a request for proposals, and I asked for it to come back in March. And I just wanted to make sure, are we still on track with that? And make sure that it's coming back to the committee, because like I've asked for reports to come back and then they were emailed to me, which is great, but I would like a public, which I appreciate. You gave me the information I requested. I just was hoping more for a public discussion on some things. So for this specific thing, is it going to come back? And can we discuss it at the committee?
Administration.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Director O'Halloran, the information that you requested of the administration is scheduled to come back in the March cycle, so it'll be next month.
Follow up.
Nope, just wanted to thank you.
Excellent. Any other comments? Discussion? All right. Director Simpson.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. So having missed some of the discussion, I don't want to meddle too much, but I do want to thank Principal Tanks for her report this evening. And I've been out to Lancaster, and it's always a very pleasant experience. And just want to thank what you're doing for the students out there, because from my first year on the board, which I think was possibly your first, maybe your second year as principal, to now, I could feel the difference when I was there. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing.
Administration. All right. All right. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 2, which is a report with possible action on the services provided to students with disabilities in the least restrictive environment, the LRE report. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Oh, sorry, administration.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, the item before you on this evening's agenda is a report on the services provided to students with disabilities in the least restricted environment, LRE. I have Travis Penner, Senior Director of Specialized Services, will provide an overview of the report and guide us through the presentation. Upon conclusion of the report, we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have in regards to this item. Travis?
Director Garcia, members of the committee, Travis Pinter, Senior Director of Specialized Services.
Happy to be here with you tonight to go over the latest LRE numbers. I direct your attention among the attachments to attachment 1, page 2, where I've summarized on a table our latest percentages. And it's been a few months since we've had this up in committee, so just what's nice about it is we can see a full array from May of 2022 through the latest data from January, because we don't have February's yet on here. And what you'll notice, just a reminder of A, B, and C, these are 3 different criteria. They're listed above in terms of what they are. But those thresholds at the top in that first row are DPI's threshold that they want us to meet. So 70% in A is meant to be met or above. In B, that 7.9% is meant to be met or below. And in C, that 0.95% is meant to be at or below. And so what you see first is that in A and C, we have consistently been where we need to be on that side of the threshold. So in A, we're above, we've been above, we continue to increase. And so we're as high as almost 87% as of January, which is great. And in C, we're as low as 0.17%, so that's continued to go down. So those are going in the right directions. B is also going in the right direction. It's been, it's not at 7.9, but you'll see for the first time, as long as I can remember, it's below 12%. We're at 11.64, so that's a really good, some really good growth since especially looking at 15.3 just back in May. So just to speak to that a little bit as to what some of the components I believe are going into this. I think some of this has been some mindset shifting. Some of it has been some procedural things on our part. A lot of it is from trainings. We have many which involve inclusionary practices now. We're getting the word out more and more often about it. We've been addressing that a lot. We've talked about our bridging units before. I think that's definitely assisting. All of our managers and supervisors are reviewing IEPs on a regular basis. They're looking for, and that's that procedural piece. Always kind of make sure that we have our categories sort of correct, for lack of a better word, making sure that we have, we're addressing them in the best way possible in the least restrictive environments. We've been collaborating with other departments like strategic partnerships and customer service. And finally, I do think that our staff Saturdays have helped. We've had that, I think it's come up here before, but we've had offered virtual work sessions for our staff in specialized services, and that includes not only teachers, but our support staff, so OT, PT, speech, psych, social work, and nurses. And the last one, for instance, had almost 700 people participate, so it's really very popular. I'm going to claim that as a record. I don't know if it is a record, but it seems like it is. And so it's the highest we've had for that, but we have those, we have one this weekend, and is one of 4 more we still have. And it allows folks not only to work on paperwork and catch up, but we've had, we offer sessions during those as well, and breakouts with all kinds of trainings for people on everything from early childhood to IEP goal writing. There's tech support there, and so there's a lot going on. We have administration present at those to kind of assist as well. So I think that has probably had an impact as well. Those were started, of course, last year as kind of came out of the pandemic, but we've continued to use those as a way of really getting our staff some training and some time that they need to work on things. So with that, I'll take any questions you have. Thanks.
All right, do committee members have any comments? Director Leonard.
Just some clarity. So when I look at the state Wisconsin target for the 5A group, 70%, is that correct that I'm looking at?
Director Leonard, members of the committee, yes, that's correct.
And we are well over that. We are by far beating that by 17%. That's how I look at that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Just wanted to get clarification on that.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, thank you for that. And Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, we had no request for public testimony on that item, and that was the last item on tonight's agenda.
All right, well, there being no further business before the committee, this meeting is adjourned.